Hey Will, how's it going? This is going to be a quick introductory video, and I'm going to run you through essentially everything that's going to be in our shared Google document, what I need from you, and then hopefully what you'll be needing from me. So the first things first is that I just shared this with you to that email that you just sent over to me. And in the current task tab, they're going to find a few things that we'll need to communicate about throughout the week. So the first thing is going to be we'll need to find a gym with barbell and squat rack access for the first week. So from 9197, I'll need about two 45 to 60-minute sessions, depending on how fast you hustle when you're in there. And this is just your standard 45-pound barbell with a squat rack. Hopefully they'll have bumper plates for whenever you are deadlifting. But we don't have to be too picky about this, honestly. Second of all, before your first session, I'll need you to watch these videos. On average, I would probably say maybe they're like 5 or 6 minutes a piece. Watch those for your first session. You won't be overhead pressing, so these primary top three will be more relevant than the fourth one, but it shouldn't take too much time. The third one, probably the most major, is that I need to know your dietary restrictions. So I do have some other vegan people, but there are not strictly or as pure as you may be. So I've had some people in the past who are totally fine with whey or dairy-based proteins. I've had some people who have been completely against even so much as yeast, and then everything is entirely plant-based. And then some of them, are more kind of vegan most of the time, but they're still okay with something like an egg or an egg white. So let me know exactly what you need. If this is something where it is literally all animal products are off the table, that will change things up a little bit, but not too much. I'll just have to send you some things that you'll have to purchase in a way where you can hit your daily protein intakes. The fourth thing is going to be establishing a food journal. So I'm going to need you to log all of your intake from Wednesday until Saturday. So pull up our calendar here. So from the 4th to the 7th, that way we get a good sample of what you normally consume during your weekday. So your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then one day during the weekend. Hopefully that weekend day is relatively normal, as if you're not going to a festival or a show or something where your consumption is going to be significantly different than it normally would be. In our second tab here, we're going to have our lifting schedule. Now this looks pretty bare bones in the beginning. For your first workout, whenever that may be, we're going to go in and we're going to do 3 sets of 5 squats, 3 sets of 5 on the bench, 1 set of 5 on the deadlift, and then 3 sets to failure at chin-ups at your own body weight. So we won't be adding any weight for your chin-ups. Now the weight that you're going to choose for all of these is something reasonably heavy. I don't want it to feel too difficult. Something where you think that the form that you are doing is relatively correct. So again, the form based off of these videos that we have in the document, watch those, do your best to try at it. Record those with your phone, send those over to me, and then I'll provide your feedback to you. If you can tell me in advance when you'll be working out. So I have one guy working out actually right now. He told me, hey, be at the gym at around 1 o'clock Eastern. So I'm in the office right now. I can respond him in real time. Otherwise, you can just send them in batches whenever you're done. This will grow increasingly complicated over time, but for about like the first 6 to 8 weeks, it'll be pretty simplified. Really just squat, press, dead, squat, press, dead. Those exercises will always basically be the backbone of everything that we're doing, but the flavor and the specifics will change. So this is one of my, this is an older client, but he's a little bit more of an advanced athlete as of right now. His schedule is looking a little bit trickier. So instead of straight for deadlifts, we're doing a lot of rack pulls. We're doing a lot of low box squats. We're doing a lot of paused benches, paused squats. We're adding in more specific arm work, things like that. So if your goal is just to generally just to get strong, get yourself back over to that 160 hump while still remaining vegan, that's totally doable by the end of the year. If you stick with it, we can probably have you pulling in the 300s by the end of the year, squatting in the 300s by the end of the year, and then benching in the 200s. That shouldn't be too difficult. And then as for our dietary guidelines tab, this right now is going to get increasingly complicated once I figure out exactly what your dietary restrictions are. But for right now, just the general goals is that we're going to increase your protein consumption to at least 180 grams a day. I want you to separate your protein dosing by at least 4 hours. So instead of having 180 grams in one sitting, try and break that up between 30 to 40 grams a day, or 30 to 40 grams a sitting, and then separate that by around 4 hours. And then once we get going with this, we're trying to increase your caloric consumption by at least 500 a day. That's very general, and no one is good at counting calories. So this is just more of a heuristic to look at. Our secondary goals is just to ensure that our leucine content per bolus of protein is going to surpass 3 grams. This honestly is one of the biggest problems with a vegan diet. Leucine is an amino acid which is relatively stimulating to our muscle protein synthesis, which I may have talked to you about before, but it is not as commonly found in vegan or non-animal sources of protein. So you can consume, 30 to 40 grams of vegetable-based protein and not really have any leucine in it, depending on the contents. So this may be something that we'll have to supplement or look at more carefully. But if you are okay with something like an egg white or a whey protein, then you won't have to worry about these things as much. The triage, or how we're going to triage your increased caloric intake, is always going to go proteins, then carbs, then fats. Likely, you're not lean enough right now where you'll need to be too concerned about your fat intake. I'm not really too worried about that. So we're always going to, triage this with protein first, carbohydrates second, and the next thing is going to be ensuring your adequate iron consumption. I know that a lot of specific types of beans will have a substantial amount of iron in them. However, it is just an unavoidable problem that happens whenever people are vegan for an extended period of time. A lot of times they can dip below their RDA for iron, extend that over a month. A lot of times you kind of get that false anemia feeling. Now, a pretty cheesy way to get around this is honestly just to eat an iron fortified cereal, or you can specifically start gearing yourself towards vegetables that have a significant amount of non-heme iron in them. And then for your weight log, we'll be tracking your weight at an interval of 7 days. So the first one we'll get at 9/6, and this will be dry morning, and then we'll just extend this out. So you have a decent amount of weigh-ins before the first one into 2020. You'll have to gain around 3/4 of a pound per weigh-in to meet your goal. What you're going to see is that presumably within the first 2 months you'll be gaining, well over a pound per weigh-in. Granted, we're doing everything close to correct, and then it's going to slow down basically once we start getting more towards our maintenance levels, and once the first return off of exercise gets a little bit less steep. Now for the food journal, you have a few options. Again, all of your recorded intake from Wednesday through Saturday. You can either write this down and measure it to the best of your ability and then send me that physical log, or alternately, and this is what tends to be most convenient for people and the most accurate, is just sending me a picture of your food. So Messenger has a built-in camera into it. Pop into Messenger, take a picture of the food, send it to me. And again, this would be everything, from alcohol to any sort of supplement or that you're taking now, to your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, ice cream at night, anything like that. So these are the first 4 things that we have to do. Hopefully this will be relatively simple for you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to place a link to this video in here's in the current task tab as well, so you can rewatch this if you had any questions, you feel like you would like to watch it again. But I'll send this link over to you in a minute, and I'll share this Google document with you. Thanks for watching.